Anything else? Okay, you got it. That seems good. That's what I'll do. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to obviously get started on Democrats scrambling after Graham Platner drops out to for the out of the Senate race over the sexual assault allegations. Let's get started there. It's everyone's favorite conversation to have. Hopefully, we will eventually move on. Hopefully, there is going to come a day where we never have to talk about this ever again. Okay? That day is coming. It's just not here yet. Once there's a replacement pick, that will be fantastic. That will be phenomenal. Once there is an actual replacement, we will no longer have to worry about this. We will no longer have to talk about this, inshallah, one day. One day, my friends. But that day is not today. We could be there because no one in here gives a single fuck about it. Yeah, except it's one of the biggest fucking stories right now. Because, once again, the Senate majority hangs in the delicate balance of the decision-making of the main Democrats. So, it's not the U.S. attacking Iran now. The U.S. military is not behind the curtain. The U.S. military is not behind the current attacks in Iran, says Al Arabiya English. Explosions have been reported. Ooh, I wonder who it could be. Oh my God, is Iran going to attack Israel while Clavicular is in Israel? That would be fucking nuts. Oh my God, Clavicular is in Israel. Oh my God. While Clavicular is in Israel, Iran is going to fucking retaliate against Israel. Dubai moment? That is a very Dubai moment. Anyway, bro, you seem refreshed as fuck today. That's because I actually did something physical in the morning before I went live. Unlike yesterday, the only physical thing I did was have gay sex with Mitch McConnell. And it sucked the life force out of me. Mitch sucked the life force out of me, dude. What is this? Consider? I mean, this one makes more sense than the long hair that's blonde. First candidate to be a true data center zealot will get 90% in an election. I know. We talk about stuff like this all the time, but I don't think Americans, I don't think either party is doing that, because the data centers are obviously very firmly on the side of entrenched power. It's still corporate interests above all else, and therefore you're not really seeing a lot of retaliation or any sort of pushback from Democrats at all.
Political meltdown in Maine that could impact control of the U.S. Senate. Overnight, Democrat Graham Platner said he is dropping out of his state Senate race. It follows allegations of rape and physical abuse, which he denies. Democrats are scrambling to find a new nominee. Caitlin Huey-Burns is in Maine. Caitlin, good morning.
Good morning to you, Vlad. Well, even in announcing that he was leaving the race, Platner remained defiant, dismissing those allegations and arguing it was the party system trying to force him out. But now the hard work begins as Democrats here try to pick up the pieces under a very tight deadline.
After a week of mounting allegations, vanishing support, and a showdown with state Democratic Party officials,
we are suspending campaign operations.
Graham Platner says he intends to drop out of Maine's Senate race. The announcement comes after two women who claim they dated Platner in the past accused him of sexual and physical abuse.
I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not.
Jenny Rassicott and Lindsay Fiffield detailed their allegations in interviews this week.
It was domestic abuse.
He violated multiple layers of consent that night.
Platner has continuously denied these allegations.
Those in power who have the ability to do so are using these allegations as an excuse to take away all of the things that we need to run a campaign.
Maine Democrats have until July 27th to pick a new candidate to take on longtime incumbent Republican Susan Collins. there's already a crowded field of contenders, including Dr. Nirav Shah, Maine's former health director.
The pathway to flipping the Senate
This
from
is the
red to
establishment
blue
pick.
goes.
So this is the establishment pick, and in an effort to make himself seem a little bit more palatable to the Platner heads in Maine, he immediately was like, "Yeah, I'm willing to deny aid to Israel," like immediately. Now, of course, I don't trust it at all, and I don't trust it at all. But you know, he's trying. He's definitely trying. He really wants it.
How anxious are Democrats feeling right now?
We are feeling 1,000 emotions all at once. And the one that I would say is overriding.
I do not believe that this man would actually be in favor of Medicare for all. I'm gonna be honest. Like, he is, dude. Look, corporate Democrats and establishment Democrats are gonna get a lot smarter eventually, because it's becoming undeniable that there is tremendous appetite for change, right? And for that reason, you're going to start seeing, which we saw already with Wesley Bell. Wesley Bell's ad. Did you guys see Wesley Bell's ad? Wesley Bell is the AIPAC stooge that AIPAC single-handedly bought a seat for as they unseated Cory Bush. Now, Wesley Bell's running ads talking about how he's going to be the only person who could combat ICE. Like, he actually wants to defeat ICE, all this stuff. He wants Medicare for all this stuff. Like, they're lying about. They've unlocked a new meta. For the longest time, the neoliberals that helmed the ship, used to not even dignify us with any sort of lying about this. They would just run on, we're the best option, we're better than the Republicans, we're the only electable option. Electability is the key here. And better things are not possible. Shut the fuck up and vote for us. Now, they've actually unlocked something very important in their tool belt, which is called lying, okay? Now they're using the Obama method. When you come out and you say, Medicare for all, I'm with it. Israel, I would love to punish it. You know? Accountability for ICE, I'm there. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it at all. And it's important for people to recognize that and sort that kind of stuff out quickly. So, yeah. Yeah, he's, what is this? Search Shaw and read from there for hard evidence on why Nirav isn't our guy. Why I won't rank Sean King. Polling in the governor's race has shown former Maine CDC Director Nirav Shah consistently in the lead. A Pan Atlantic research poll released on May 20th reported Shah ahead with 29, following by Angus King III with 24%, Troy Jackson with 12%, Shanna Bellows with 10%, and Hannah Pingree with 9%. However, Pan Atlantic doesn't have the best record in the polling, blah, blah, blah. From talking to Shah supporters at doors, a lot of Democrats have warm and fuzzy feelings about Shah from when he was giving daily briefings during the COVID pandemic. He became a kind of a rock star to certain liberal-leaning Mainers for his calm, smooth demeanor and dad jokes. People like him because he's smart with both a law degree and a medical degree, even though he doesn't have any clinical experience. He just also seems like a very nice person. But I have some deep concerns. As far as his positions on economic policy, Shah has described himself as a University of Chicago guy, a strong believer in free markets. Adherents of the Chicago schools staunchly believe in free market capitalism and reject Keynesian intervention in the economy to make it more fair for working people. That is as right-wing as you can get. That is neoliberalism through and through. That's fucking Friedman, dude. Get out of here. There are folks in the Democratic Party for whom that's not their preferred means of economic delivery, but that's how I view the world, Shah said at one forum. Oof. Shah complained that Maine's taxes are too high and is hesitant to make tax code fair in terms of shifting some of the burden to the wealthiest taxpayers and ensuring working class people don't pay a higher rate of taxes than millionaires. Recently, the pro-Shah Super PAC 314 Action Fund released an ad funded by a PAC affiliated with Democrats for Education Reform A New York-based school privatization group. Oh, no, he's a school privatization guy. Oh, no. Get your guy Edinger. This is his guy. Dude, he doesn't. I'm sorry. I don't think Edinger Mentum has done his due diligence on this stuff. Okay? I don't think he has. It's just not. There's no shot. Here's the reality. A lot of people are panicking. Myself included. That's why I was like, bring out the Toyota. Bring out the Toyota, we all said. I mean, he's a lifelong logger. He's super pro-cop. He's, he used to be homophobic. Not exactly sure where he lands on LGBTQ-related issues nowadays. But, like, I want to actually have a conversation with Troy. We're working on it. But, like, the reason why I said deploy the Troy, bust out the Toyota, is because he is probably the closest to the Platner platform, the populist platform, and he also has an actual DSA endorsement, and he also there's got to be a reason for it, but outside of that, he's just very boring. He doesn't have the Graham Platner speech skills, unfortunately. In any case, the other problem with the other problem with the Toyota, Mr. Toyota, is that a gubernatorial race just took place and he kind of got cooked. It's crazy. You're more critical of Troy's experience and personality than fucking Platner. Dog, we're talking about a popularity contest. I'm already leaning into that. Hello? Just as I said, look, chatters, I need you to understand something, okay? I have to be able to conduct analysis without you guys fucking freaking out on me every time I say some shit that you don't fully subscribe to, okay? I will always say the positive qualities of a candidate. I will always match them up against their contest, against the rest of the field. And I will also then talk about their appeal to a broader base of support. You need to let me cook a little bit. This is just how it works. This is how I've always conducted my analysis too. It's not new. It's not different. You know? This ain't new. Are you telling a subscriber they shouldn't subscribe to you? What? No, I'm always telling people they should subscribe to me. In any case, let's continue. Is Maine, man, you don't need charisma like that. Just look at people who just want policy and beat Collins. We shall see. Like I said, there's an interesting balance here of like how much of Graham Platner's success is related to his charisma and his like oratory skills, and how much of it is related to the platform. I think it's 30-70, 70 being the platform, 30 being the charisma. Right? So that's my assessment. But we shall see. We shall see. In any case, that's the one I'm the most positive about. Troy is the one that I'm the most positive on out of all of the potential candidates, but I'm open to others as well. In any case, there is one candidate that I'm not open to, and that's obviously Shah. Right? This is even more information than my that basically confirms my suspicions. That he is a school privatizer guy. I thought Troy was also a lobsterman. No, he's a loggerman. He's a lifelong loggerman. There's only two types of people in Maine. There's only two jobs in Maine. Okay. Lobster guy or oyster guy, same shit. Or log. He's a lumber guy. He's the second type of guy in Maine that's readily available. Yeah. So just, you either lobster with the lob or you log. There's only two genders in Maine. I'm a lumber guy. I know you really like the lumber. I know you like the lumber. There's trees all around the Maine state, and we got to cut it down. I'm a lumber guy. I like to cut the tree. What commie says? Thank you for the 20 bones. All right. We're going to chat GPT it later, and we're going to grok it. We're going to grok it. We're going to chat GPT it. We're going to see what kind of logs we can get, what kind of saws we can be using, and what kind of log we can get in Maine. All right. I'm a lumber guy. Okay. Yeah, he wants to expand this group 314 wants to expand charter schools, which is terrible. Creating school voucher programs, also terrible. Mandating more standardized tests. This is another one of the most annoying things that Democrats actually advance. It's a way to destroy what remains of the teachers' unions, a way to gut what remains of public school education. Josh Shapiro's a big school privatizer. I hate it. Not a fan of these guys at all. So that's another situation with Shaw. Is folks expanding on charter schools, creating school voucher programs, mandating more standardized tests, punishing teachers and fighting teachers' unions? Yeah. Troy Jackson and Shanna Bellows recently released a joint statement expressing disappointment that Dr. Shaw is being bankrolled by millionaires whose mission is diverting your tax dollars from Maine's neighborhood public schools to private ones. The Maine Education Association endorsed Jackson and Bellows the first and second choices, and Shaw as his third choice. Shaw also worked as Illinois public health director in a right-wing Republican governor, Bruce Ratner's administration. A dozen veterans died in a Legionnaire's outbreak at a veterans home after drinking bacteria-contaminated water. They weren't diagnosed or given antibiotics quickly enough. 11 families sued the state for negligence, and Senators Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth called on Shaw to resign. The senator said the Shaw deliberately withheld information that the veterans home was in violation of a health code. That's crazy. That's crazy. Okay. Where are you going? Where are you going? She's been farting up a storm up in here. Dick Derby, more like Turby Derby. Okay. So yeah. During Bruce Rauner's re-election campaign challenge, J.B. Pritzker ran emotional ads featuring family members of veterans who died to preventable diseases. Nirav Shah also said this. Landlords have been demonized. When I watched Shah's closing remarks where he said, Maine landlords have been demonized. I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you. God damn, dude. Unbelievable. For too long, landlords have been demonized. That's insanity.
Landlords have been demonized. You have been seen as a source of our problems, not part of the solution to them. As governor, I pledge that that will change, and that I will stand shoulder to shoulder with you rather than in opposition with you.
Please help me make sure that man is not our governor.
Yeah, by the way, he fucking you know, he cooked. Bro, did you see this from Scott Jennings, little ass bitch? Yeah, I did. He's like, time to sue. I said, Fox News' Rape TV is the pro-rape network. One of their rapist hosts is now the fucking Secretary of War. Pete Hegseth also has a Nazi tattoo on his motherfucking chest. He is such a prolific rapist that his own mother sent him an email begging him to stop raping. And Scott Jennings was like, time to sue. Sue for what? Literally everything that I said. Everything that I said in that statement is confirmed by previous reporting. I was looking at this and I was thinking, like, what could it be? Like, what could be a defamatory claim here? And it's like, Fox News has been sued by former guests and former hosts. Like, there's a lot of famous Fox News anchors who were fired. It was a huge controversy. Pete Hegseth has been literally credibly accused of rape and covered it up by paying the victim, if I recall correctly. So yeah, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, but I said, how many times have you defended Trump against rape allegations? How many times have you said something racist towards blacks on your streams? Don't worry, the full clip will be out soon. Guy who says blacks. Guy who types out the word blacks is supposedly a defender of black people. Interesting. Yeah, this time it's going to work. Yeah, then he turns around and says, I'm black. Okay. So yeah, there's some issues with Shah. But let's get back into it.
Is the eagerness and the commitment to defeating Susan Collins in the fall.
Former State Senate President Troy Jackson and Maine Beer Company founder Dan Kleben also announced they're seeking their party's nomination. But a defiant Platner says the decision should come from voters.
Decisions should not be made in back rooms by people in places of political power.
Okay, so where does this all go from here? Well, the state Democratic Party here has now decided they'll hold a nominating convention by the end of the month, but they're still trying to figure out exactly what that would look like. So still a lot more work to do for Democrats here. Vlad.
All right, Caitlin, thank you very much. Let's bring in CBS News political contributor and Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Joel, good morning.
Good morning.
So Grant Platner has categorically denied the allegations against him. He says he did nothing wrong. He seems, though, to be blaming the Democratic establishment for forcing him out. Joel, is that because party leaders concluded he was simply unelectable because Democrats feel that there's some kind of moral obligation here for a candidate facing an allegation like this to withdraw, regardless of whether or not it's been proven? And ultimately, shouldn't that judgment be...
They're working overtime to clip you and frame it, endorsing Platner. I made a post adding context to one of the videos. Oh yeah, I know. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I don't know. I can't tell if it's coming from like the Neera Tandons of the world who are trying to associate Grant Platner with like Abdullah Sayed and all these other people, or if it's the people who are like, we were right, we are the true anti-imperialists, Hassan is not real, he's fake, he's phony. He loved Grant Platner. He was always like the biggest endorser and supporter of Grant Platner. He flew to Maine, all this stuff. Or the people who consistently say things like any sort of sentiment. You literally did endorse him, JD Pond 17. You ran defense for him. This conversation is always going to materialize into this for some reason. Kaya, sit. Okay, go. Okay. Stop looking at... Dude, this is so funny. Look at this. Look. Let me see if I can show. Okay. Go. I want to see if you can watch it. Kaya, okay. Open the door. Open the door. There it is. Yeah. She's brilliant. She's brilliant. That's it. She has a PhD. It's crazy. Chris Kunzler's YouTube chat has also been weird the past 3 days with randos have been pestering for a condom Hassan. I'm thinking it's being astroturfed to hell. Wisconsin Democrat downplays appearing on a Tom Piker show, doesn't endorse everything he says. What are they doing? She added as if candidates she should just do the Abdul the Abdul method. Yeah, I don't expect her to endorse everything I say. And I don't endorse everything she says. How about that? But it doesn't matter, right? But in any case, we'll cover this in a second. This is Francesca Hong. So, as far as the Platner, as far as the Platner mania goes, you endorse ramen too per every Twitter post. I know. Anyone and everyone that I have on the broadcast, people will work tirelessly to qualify as like an automatic endorsement. Any coverage that I extend to any candidate, any defense of any candidate in a meaningful capacity, which of course I readily admit, I did defend the principle that Graham Platner, with the information that we had at the time, was far better than Janet Mills and Susan Collins, which is true. It's not like it's not a what do you call it? You look past accusations of sexual assault. I'm gonna fucking dude. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That's not true. The first credible accusation of sexual assault, and I immediately covered it and actively pulled the trigger and demanded that he drop out. You are assuming that he was a rapist from before when there wasn't any credible evidence that he was. That's the difference. It's very, very frustrating. I'm not going to jump on your suspicions. Okay? Even if they are unfounded, but then end up becoming true, that doesn't mean that is a way that I will cover. Like, dude, here, I'll give you an example. Okay? If people turned around and started calling Abdul a rapist, for example, which probably could happen. These guys are fucking vicious. What you think I'm just going to be like, oh, I guess that's the case? Like, it's insane. That's insane. You should stop responding to these chatters that are obviously trying to bait you to clip you as supporting Platner. I know. A part of our coverage today is going to feature the exact method that they're trying to the exact method that they're trying to do right now. They're trying to portray Abdul al-Sayed aggressively. They're trying to portray Abdul al-Sayed as like the same as Graham Platner. It's fucking insane. Okay? It's insane. One of the things that I said in the New York Times initial reporting was that if there was, regardless of Lindsay Fiefeld's background, for example, if there was, I see so many cutoff clips trying to show you as defending Platner. You did, dude. Like, look at this. Look at this. If I was the El-Sayed campaign, I probably wouldn't want to be associated with Platner's advisors or a previous push for Platner as a future for president, given that it sounds grotesque today. But then again, his campaign is all the same advisors, so maybe he will be next. This is one of the most insane insinuations that I have ever seen. It's disgusting, okay? It's absolutely disgusting. And Neera Tanden is doing it right now, okay? Neera Tanden, who is literally a Clinton acolyte, is doing this. It's not even a reach at that point. It's just straightforwardly nastiness, trying to imply a heinous, trying to deploy a heinous smear. Trying to deploy a fucking heinous smear against another left populist candidate, because that's how terrified they are of someone who's critical of Israel and pro Medicare for all and anti-corporate PAC spending. That is straight up what's going on. Anyone that fucking leans into this idiotic nonsense is playing the exact same role as Neera Tanden without even recognizing it. Okay? We have to be a little bit smarter about the way, the devious ways in which these people in positions of power deploy propaganda. Okay? The reason why I say that is because, like, they didn't get there just out of sheer luck, okay? These are vicious people. They know how to rat fuck. They know how to tug on people's heartstrings. It's not, like, this is not, if you underestimate your ideological opponents, the centrist Democrats, the right-wing Democrats that have been at the center of power in the Democratic Party for decades now, you will always lose. We will always lose. You cannot underestimate what they're doing. Okay? They love manufacturing narratives. They immediately started talking about how Abdul al-Sayed is misogynistic for running against Gretchen Whitmer and then running against two women. So I urge people who are at least on the left to not fall for this fucking nonsensical bullshit. Okay? These people did not actually get to their position of power. These people did not get to their position of power by just like being dumb. They are very shrewd. They're very cunning. They're very manipulative. Okay? They know exactly how to bake a narrative. They're cynical political operatives. You have to be a little bit more careful. Okay? They didn't get there by being nice. They didn't get there by having moral convictions. They got there by being manipulative, shrewd operators. Okay? Using credible rape allegations against a totally fucking random candidacy to tie it back to another campaign that is properly vetted and not remotely connected to the main campaign is disgusting. And that's precisely the reason why many people immediately were like, this is DSA, this is the left, this is the left. Okay? They're doing that on purpose. Look, Caitlin Legacki says absolute smoke.
The Republicans were going to drop something after this the July 13th date, so you couldn't replace them. But the fact of the matter is these are the same consultants that are bringing you Abdul al-Sayed in Michigan. They're the same people.
They're not. They're not. What the fuck are we talking about? They're not. It's nasty business, man. This is fucking insane. What do you mean the same consultants? I think they hired the fight agents for one fucking ad, dude. One ad. Like a couple months ago. Abdul al-Sayed ran in 2018 on a pro Medicare for all ticket. This is fucking bullshit. It's an ad agency. It's like saying Michael Lasher is basically Graham Platner, if that's the case. Why are they not bringing up Michael Lasher? Fight agency work with Michael Lasher too? Why are they not criticizing Michael Lasher? Was Michael Lasher a fight agency candidate? Is that what happened? It's fucking ridiculous. They're an ad agency. They make good ads. I will always stand by that. They have decent instincts on some of this stuff, but they're an ad agency nonetheless. The idea that like an ad agency is actually responsible for a real political movement in this country is fucking utterly ridiculous. Okay? No disrespect to the good people that work there. I'm not criticizing them on that front. They make great ads. They have decent instincts at times, but it's fucking ridiculous to look at a growing movement in this country, a growing political movement in this country, largely backed by the Democratic Socialists of America, largely revolving around DSA, with 120,000 plus dues paying members, and then attributing that to the fight agency is fucking crazy. Because a lot of these guys cannot comprehend actual political movements growing in this country. They're all they're cynical. Their understanding of the world is just wheeling and dealing. You're only like, there's only political movements that are designed in a lab, right? There's no real political movements that can come from real people that have just a genuine disagreement with the way that the Democratic Party has operated for years, that want change, that demand that change. That can't happen. Okay? It's ridiculous.
Who are bringing you other candidates that are not vetted because they think that if you are online and you are popular online, that you are going to win people. And it is disgusting and gross. This person was bad from the beginning. I have said it for months. He has no business being in the Senate. He has no business being on a campaign. And the fact that the Democratic Party stood with him after the first allegations and the men of the Democratic Party stood with him is disgusting. And the women are the only ones that stood up to him.
Something here. Abdul Sayed is not facing any kind of allegation of sexual abuse.
And he's an unvetted, untested
candidate. He is also a former.
Yeah, thank you. Jesus Christ. It's fucking ridiculous. Dave Weigel says, El Sayed is definitely more vetted than Platner. He ran in 2018 and spent half the campaign answering residency qualification questions. There are new questions about his finances. He made dollars since 2018, and he's been knocked for overstating his public health record, but he's not a free-range candidate with no experience like Platner. Even that is like far too critical for the record. Neera Tanden turns around. The energy for Platner is going to move to El Sayed. They are very different people. Abdul El Sayed is a high-achieving brainiac who doesn't drink and has 2 kids with his college sweetheart. But part of the fight oligarchy goal is electing stars who can change the conversation with a force of their ideas, gab, and charisma. The non-Bernie wing Dems realize this is happening. Years of elevating other young electeds who can be the face of the party, so it's not always AOC on your screen. The irony of this happening in Michigan is that Slotkin, with her economic war plan, is one of the candidates for this. The problem with the established Democrats is that Elisa Slotkin is their star, okay? That's who they thought would be an AOC replacement to like bring excitement back to the establishment wing of the party. It's failed. Abigail Spanberger is another great example of this, where they were like, these are our stars. You have the right-wing forces within the Democratic Party, the right-wing Democrats, saying Elisa Slotkin, Abigail Spanberger, and the New Jersey governor, these are our young stars, right? They also, for a while, thought it could be Marisa Concentration Camp Perez. It didn't work because she's just too busy, like, trying to club seals or something. I don't really understand what the fuck her deal is at all. But they built this star-studded team, right? That was their goal. Their goal is these are the new people, right? Eric Adams was a star for a little bit. We saw exactly how that worked out, right? Unbelievably corrupt, unbelievably right-wing. Yeah, Marie Mein Kampf Perez. Richie Torres is another one of these guys, right? They're very frustrated. They're frustrated that like the organic talent with a lot of the grassroots mobilization capabilities is coming from the left. That's another real issue that they have, right? It's the Bernie-crats. It's the left populists that are actually capable of driving a tremendous turnout, especially youth turnout. So, that's where we're at. There is this real battle brewing within the Democratic Party, and instead of the establishment Democrats stepping out of the way and allowing this change to take place, and maybe even leaning into it a little bit to be like, yeah, we are like that too, they are aggressively posturing against it. And the Center for American Progress, ironically named, with being helmed by Neera Tanden, is at the forefront of this, and so is Third Way. So are all of these different think tanks that are funded by these massive corporations that are actively trying to hold on to the center of power in the party. Okay? There is no comparison between Abdul al-Sayed and Graham Platner. The only comparison you can make is one that I have made since November 2025, when we first found out that Graham Platner had a fucking Nazi tattoo on his chest. And that comparison was, see, look at all these people falling in love with Graham Platner in spite of those red flags because he's running on a left populist campaign. There's another guy who actually is a real one with an unvarnished track record that is not tarnished at all, no red flags whatsoever, complete fucking stud through and through. And yet the Democrats, the establishment Democrats and the right-wing Democrats are treating him like he's just as bad as fucking Graham Platner was. Brother, we get it. Can you stop defending your record? No, this is not me defending my record. What are you talking about? This has nothing to do with me defending my record. The only comparison you can make is that establishment Democrats, right-wing Democrats, and right-wingers outside of the Democratic Party are treating Abdul al-Sayed and Graham Platner as the same because of the policies. That's it. That's it. One's a doctor, a Rhodes Scholar, a person who worked in public health, okay? Neither of which are socialist, right? Abdul al-Sayed is not a socialist. He openly says it. We had that conversation together when he first came on the broadcast. He was like, oh, I believe in, ethical capitalism or whatever. I don't agree with him on it, but who cares? Right? And it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating that they're just like, one, they're saying, this guy is DSA, so is Graham Platner. Neither are DSA candidates, okay? And not only that, but also they are going to shit smear to the best of their ability. You say that people don't understand movement, and then Chatter thinks you're defending your record, showing that Chatter doesn't understand movement too. Platner's baggage was overlooked when they were pushing Platner, but now that baggage is being scrutinized and they're using it to attack Abdul. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. Adam Carlson also had some choice words on AOC, Neera Tanden had some choice words on AOC. Neera Tanden tried to literally package AOC with this. Why would you do that? Out of all of the left populist, DSA affiliated, or DSA politicians, AOC was the one who literally saw Platner and was like, I'm staying the fuck away from that race. So why is Neera Tanden on MS Now trying to tarnish AOC with this too?
I guess I'd say, look, this whole situation is a horrifying tragedy on so many levels. And the people I feel the worst for are really the people Nikki is talking about. The people who were betrayed by Graham Platner. I mean, he's angry at the world, but it's his own actions that have caused this situation that we're in. And I feel like the fact that he takes zero responsibility of that really enrages me. But I feel the people I feel the worst for in this situation are people who felt hope about this campaign. And I do think the process has to ensure that people who felt hope in this campaign, in his campaign, and about change in Maine have a voice in that process. I mean, what I found sort of really disturbing about this video is there's so much more ire to Democrats nationally than two people he never mentioned, Susan Collins or Donald Trump. And I find it sort of tragic that after all the destruction and wreckage, he's going out by basically trying to torch Democrats. And just as a reminder, he did win the primary, but it's his own actions that have caused this. And you don't have to ask me. You can ask Senator Sanders, Senator Warren, Congressman Khanna, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. These are his.
AOC. Why the fuck would you bring up AOC? Warren, fine. Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, fine. These are all endorsers of Graham Platner. They immediately removed their endorsements. They unendorsed them as soon as the credible rape allegation hit the timeline. Why would you bring up AOC in this conversation? AOC never endorsed them. As a matter of fact, they kept asking AOC why she wouldn't. And she was like, oh, I haven't weighed into that race. AOC has no ties to Graham Platner at all. Perhaps this has everything to do for cynical operators like Neera Tanden. They do not care about rape. I can say that with full confidence. You want to know why? Because Neera Tanden worked with Bill Clinton. Neera Tanden worked with both of the Clintons. Okay? Neera Tanden is an establishment Democrat through and through. Okay? These people don't care about sexual assault. We do. They don't. They at least have some level, like they're definitely more decent than the Republicans, which isn't saying much. Okay? Because obviously the Republicans are completely demonic. This is the lighter version of that demonic nonsense, right? But I can confidently say if you work with Bill Clinton, you obviously don't care. If you work with the Clintons, you obviously don't care about these sorts of allegations, right? You don't care about credible rape or sexual assault or sexual harassment allegations at all. You care about maintaining your position of power within the party. And as a cynical operator, she will take a real rape allegation with real victims and will turn around and try to tie that back to other people who are not even in any way, shape, or form connected to this guy. Whether it be Abdullah Syed, whether it be AOC. So what is the connective tissue between Graham Platner and Abdullah Syed and AOC? Perhaps it's your resentment towards them. Perhaps you want to connect them because you don't like that there is a growing populist movement within the party, that the base is demanding changes. So you're aggressively trying to tie as many figureheads as possible, as many people who are critical of Israel as possible. For example, Neera Tanden, another person that she has aligned with over and over again, Benjamin Netanyahu. So cynical. Adam Carlson calls it out and says, I like how she tries to rope in AOC at the end here as someone who supported Platner / was his ally in Congress when she faced a lot of shit from the people on the left for repeatedly refusing to endorse him, even as other leaders on the left did. And she clearly showed excellent judgment in not caving to that pressure. I know you're trying to poison the well for AOC's potential 2028 presidential campaign by associating her with Platner. And it's beyond obvious that you're trying to do the same with Abdullah Syed and Peggy Flanagan this cycle, but at least try to be a little bit more subtle about it next time. Literally all the quote retweets are calling her out. Yeah. Yeah, say what you will, but the establishment vets candidates. Totally. Yeah. Totally. The Cuomo one's even crazier because the establishment knew that Cuomo was a sex pest, right? And they still pushed him against Zohran Mamdani. That's what's so wild about these guys. They don't have a leg to goddamn stand on, dude. They don't have a leg to stand on. And yet they'll chirp nonstop. What is this? Did you see Time mentioned you 11 times in the Abdullah Syed article? Democratic Senate hopeful Abdullah Syed is running against both parties. Is it a good article or a bad one? Did I give him a quote in this? I don't remember. Look, it's very clear that they don't have too much. They don't have any oppo really, like any significant oppo on Abdul. So all they have is to basically terror jacket him. That's all they got. So they're just going to keep hitting that line over and over again. What is this? I took a lot of heat for campaigning with a guy named Hassan Piker. He says, the Democratic establishment, the Republican establishment, they can't agree on everything, but they can agree that one shall not campaign with Hassan Piker. The audience laughs because that's the most important issue happening in America right now. That's funny. It's a good line. Bars. But yeah, the reason why I turned into a significant talking point in this race is partially because of that, because they have nothing. So they have to invent shit, right? And that's usually what you do if you don't have any real oppo. You invent suspicion. You invite suspicion. You say, oh, well, why haven't you released your tax returns? Like Abdul's made some decent money, I assume, from his book and from his podcast, right? So they're trying to say like he's out of touch. This is never a point of concern against candidates who defend entrenched power. Okay? Never. I've never heard a single instance where any of these people, whether they be on the far right or whether they be on the center right of the Democratic Party, I've never heard them deploy this line of criticism against billionaires or millionaires. Only when someone says a better future is possible and I'm willing to fight for it, do people immediately deploy the, well, you're rich. Well, you're rich. You're a rich guy. How about you shut the fuck up, rich guy? Why don't you shut your rich guy mouth? How dare you speak for the poors from your ivory tower? It's so strange. It's so strange. They did this to Tom Steyer as well, and it worked with Tom Steyer. Tom Steyer's a billionaire, right? And it's interesting. It's interesting that this does not get deployed against Jared Polis. This doesn't get deployed against unbelievably wealthy Democrats that are in the right. They did this with Bernie Sanders. They tried to do it with Zoran. Zoran is broke as fuck. He's a broke boy. And they tried to do this. They tried to do this with Daria Liza. It only goes in one direction. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, Zoran's got no fucking bread. He's a broke boy. So why don't they do this with Daniel Lurie? Daniel Lurie, the mayor of San Francisco, is a billionaire. Why don't they do this with Daniel Lurie? Isn't that interesting? Perhaps it's because he's right-wing. He's a right-wing Democrat. Yeah. If you're rich and you advocate for the poor, you're a hypocrite. If you are poor and you advocate for the poor, you're jealous and you're broke and you demonstrate envy. They just don't want you advocating for the poor. Yeah. I am poor and I advocate for the rich, so I'm a hero. Yeah. If you're poor and you advocate for the rich, you're just a regular American. Let me tell you, a lot of those guys around. A lot of broke boys who love advocating for the interests of the wealthy. Very strange. Many of them find themselves in my chat every day in, day out, tirelessly advocating for the wealthy. Temporarily embarrassed millionaires and billionaires. The wantrepreneurs. One day I too will become unfathomably wealthy. And then those poors like me better look out. That's the attitude. There's always the attitude. And it's weird because no wealthy person has ever become wealthy without advocating for their self-interest. So the irony here is you are currently advocating against your class interests if you're poor. if you're a worker and you're anti-labor, if you're a worker and you're anti-socialist, anti-communist, you unironically are advocating against your class interests. And let me tell you something about rich folk. Okay? They didn't get there while advocating against their best interests. Okay? They didn't get there by saying no to someone who wants to extend a helping hand. You're being silly. So even if you are simply just a wantrepreneur, or you're simply just in transit, you are transitioning to a billionaire, you're going to be a billionaire one day, even if you aren't there yet, while you're not there, you should advocate for your best interests. You should advocate for your class interests. Okay? That's it. Anyway, Neera Tanden responded to Adam Carlson, said, did the audio not work? AOC, who I'm a fan of, called on Platner to end the campaign just as Warren Sanders and Khanna did. I mentioned her because she's a leader on the left who called on him to get out, not a moderate who told him to get out. I didn't say she endorsed him. I do agree she looks like a genius for not endorsing him. Yeah, she's trying to basically change the dynamic of the statement. She absolutely packaged them together on purpose, just like she is also directly tying Abdul El-Sayed to Graham Platner. Abdul El-Sayed has no connection to Graham Platner. It's fucking bullshit.
To ensure that people who felt hope in this campaign, in his campaign, and about change in Maine have a voice in that process. I mean, what I found sort of really disturbing about this video is there's so much more ire to like Democrats nationally than.
Don't you think lending any support to non-leftists or outsiders are doing entryism, and that's bad for knowing who they are or what they will do? I mean, with Abdul El-Sayed, it's definitely different than Graham Platner. Like I trust Abdul. I trust Abdul on his policies because. And not because like I've gotten to know Abdul El-Sayed, but I just know his background, right? Like he's been at this game for a while. Like he has been a staunch advocate for Medicare for all. He wrote a literal fucking book on it, and he ran a gubernatorial race in 2018. Unfortunately, too early, right? Like he was right, but too early. I think that's important. Like that's the difference here. You know what I mean? There are always going to be people who are not entirely aligned ideologically with us that are certainly valuable and reliable allies in the same cause.
Two people he never mentioned, Susan Collins or Donald Trump. And I find it sort of tragic that after all the destruction and wreckage, you know, he's going out by basically trying to torch Democrats. And just as a reminder, like, he did win the primary, but it's his own actions that have caused this. And you don't have to ask me. You can ask Senator Sanders, Senator Warren, Congressman Khanna, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. These are his allies in the fight who recognized what happened here was horrifying.
Yeah, these are his allies in the fight. And then she tries to make it seem like she was just bringing up the fact that AOC called on him to pull out. You brought up allies in the fight, and you brought up AOC's name into the conversation because you want to tarnish her track record. You want to connect AOC to Graham Platner. AOC has no connection to Graham Platner. Like, you think Graham Platner did not ask AOC for an endorsement? I'm sure they did. You know what I mean? I'm certain that I have no knowledge of this, but I'm certain that they went to every person that they could that is progressive, and it never came. So the idea that you can try to connect these two in this circumstance is simply to connect this movement to Graham Platner. Since we know he's a known liar, do you think he's actually a Nazi because of that too? I don't know, man. I don't want to even think about that. Okay? I don't want to think about fucking Graham Platner. They didn't go to you? No, they did not. Platner this, Platner that. Guys, let's just agree Graham Fatner sucks ass and throw him to the left. Graham Fatner. What is this? Lesson learned. Troy Jackson removes all mentions of Gaza from his campaign platform. Wait, what? No. Wait, hold on.
Already planning to organize. I mean, everybody obviously is planning, but they're the ones that are the most organized, planning to go to these county committee meetings when they're scheduled and get behind a particular candidate. I suspect our reporting indicates that will be Troy Jackson, and then try to send a majority of their own delegates to the state committee and then nominate Troy Jackson. Troy Jackson put out a statement announcing that he is running for office on a platform of Medicare for all, taking on corporate power, standing up for working people. Conspicuously absent from his statement was the Gaza genocide, or an anti-war message. He opposes the genocide. He has called it out. He is an anti-war candidate. In the moment, he's like, you know, I don't think we're going to include that necessarily in the statement that we're putting out here. It's like a lesson learned type of situation.
The New York Times working on a hit piece against Troy Jackson. Fortunately, there are several witnesses who could debunk the bottle story, but I wouldn't put it past the Times to try to take him down as the only Bernie endorsed candidate in the race. First trailer of the documentary American Doctor. Wait, isn't this? Oh, this is Feroz, right? I think I'm in this.
It looks like when a hospital's totally overwhelmed, you're getting waves of patients. What do you prioritize?
Isn't this the one I'm in? This documentary? Feroz is one of the... Yeah.
Do you have to treat them?
Yeah, there he is.
Medicine to give the people whose legs have been blown off.
3 surgeons all working on one little girl for, what, 2.5 hours? And she's probably going to lose her right leg, and her left arm.
And she's starting to wake up. Let's get her warm. As a Jewish physician, I knew nothing about Gaza. Like most Americans, I thought everybody out here were nothing but terrorists because that's what I was told.
I'm not Israeli, I'm not Palestinian, I'm not Christian, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Jewish. I don't really have any connection to it. But as an American, I just don't want my government involved in crimes.
I'm a Palestinian. I'm not a spokesperson. I'm a human being. I'm a U.S. doctor who wants to see babies like my babies not be killed anymore.
What surprised me most was how the carnage was focused on journalists, healthcare workers, and children. This bomb. Where was that?
That bomb hit the building.
There was a 15-year-old kid ready for discharge that was incinerated.
And if I had gone down and been changing that kid's dressing, there would have been 3 bodies, and I would have been one of them.
When they hit a hospital, that's a deep tragedy that people will feel in the community for the foreseeable future. We're just asking that hospitals not be targeted. Why that conversation is derailed in the United States is beyond me.
We do not have to accept that as Americans. The United States could stop sending jet fuel, bombs, all sorts of weapons. This is a political problem. We need a political solution.
We're a good
Feroz is so cool.
And
He's the man.
It's on us to make sure that their stories are told. I couldn't go to Palestine. I got rejected. And then I come back to the United States and get detained by the Department of Homeland Security.
This is what my tax dollars did. What your tax dollars did. What my neighbor's tax dollars did. They have the right to know the truth. Thoreau's the right one to listen to. He is about fairness, and he is about doing the right thing.
You know we're not dating, right? You don't have to talk me up this much. Yeah. I just met her 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I was supposed to, what was I doing? I think I literally went to Michigan instead. I was supposed to go to the Sundance. They invited me to the Sundance release. But I think I was in Michigan with Abdul at the time. This is going to be incredible. It's the premiere. Man, these are some unimpeachable heroes right here. Fucking really. Or no, I was in Minnesota. I wasn't in Michigan. I was in Minnesota for the ICE demonstrations. That's why I couldn't make it. Holy fuck, that was cold. Jesus Christ. Yeah. First trailer for American Doctor, documentary follows through physicians who work to save the lives of children in Gaza who were hit by Israeli bombs in select theaters starting from August 14th. I'm gonna be honest, dude. It's like, dude, this is, you want to know something crazy? We went from interviewing people like Feroz to getting a guy like Feroz elected into Congress. Think about that. Think about that. Adam Hamawi, another doctor who went to Gaza and was patching children up day in, day out. And now he's going to be a congressional representative. Things can change. Okay? Do you understand? Things can change. As long as we're organized, as long as we're disciplined, as long as we are steadfast in our advocacy, as long as we look at the environment shifting, we look at the masses coming to the realization of certain realities, and if we're there, we can take advantage of the fact that people are finally recognizing the truth, and we can make material changes. Okay? This is what I mean when I say little pockets of hope that you can lean into. Like, think about it. Think about it this way. Feroz Sidwa came here to my house and sat next to me for 2 hours, 3 hours. Okay? And that was 2 years ago. I love him. He's a wonderful guy. He's an incredibly brave person. Okay? We had a conversation. We talked about the horrifying things that Israel was doing in Gaza. Okay? Think about where we were collectively. Think about where American society was collectively back then. Okay? Let's take a look. When did I interview him? Which there is apparently some pieces of that interview in the documentary, which is, I mean, I'm honored to have even been mentioned in the documentary. Obviously, it's all right. So, yeah, I was invited to Sundance to go view the premiere, but unfortunately, I went to Minneapolis instead to the ICE demonstrations. This was June 6th, 2025. Wow, it's not even 2 years ago. It's 1 year ago. Almost exactly 1 year ago. When I had Feroz Sidwa on the broadcast, we had a 1 hour and 48-minute conversation. Okay? That was 1 year ago. Since then, this community has played a role in getting numerous anti-Zionist congresspersons elected, including a guy just like Feroz, who ran for office and won in New Jersey, Adam Hamawi. Think about that. Now understand, this is precisely the reason why There are a lot of people in positions of power who are terrified. There are a lot of people who are doing everything they can to chip away at the integrity of this movement, that are doing everything they can to tear down people who are kind people who simply want to make the changes that we all want to see. Okay? That's it. In any case, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because 1 year ago, this kind of changes, the kinds of changes that we've played a role in were unforeseeable, right? It was impossible to envision. I certainly didn't think that there would ever be a moment where we could get someone like Feroz Sidwa, Adam Hamawi, a doctor who went to Gaza, elected into Congress. That was 1 year ago. This is why I always say revolutions are not spontaneous. They don't happen out of nowhere. They don't happen because people come to terms with the reality or recognize their class position and immediately engage in disciplined organizing. It doesn't work that way. You have to be there. You have to have the organizational backbone to support people once they come to that conclusion. People only think about the successes. People only think about the successes of New York City, DSA, right? They only think about Zohran Mamdani, AOC, right? Now the DSA slate. They don't think about the 10 plus years of work that it took to get to that point. They never think about the failures that happened along the way. They don't realize. They just take it for granted. Do you understand? Once that moment of success comes, people go, wow, I guess we can recreate it here as well. I guess it was so easy. Yeah, there's no AOC without Bernie. And there's no Zohran without AOC and Bernie. And there's no DSA slate without Zohran, AOC, and Bernie. It builds on its own. It builds on top of victory after victory. Okay, this is also part of the reason why I'm endlessly gracious to certain people who I might have significant disagreements with on other issues, right? Some of the way they, the way that they carry themselves, or some of their opinions I might not agree with, but ultimately, as long as they are not an impediment to progress, as long as they are not playing the role of a hurdle in building a broader movement, okay, then it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to say, no, I demand purity. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that there aren't, red lines, right? There aren't red lines. Of course there are. Okay. This doesn't mean that we must make way for opportunists who come in. I mean, we just saw one version of that with Graham Platner. So obviously there are important lessons to be learned there. Okay. There are important lessons to be learned there with the Graham Platner failure, right? For sure. Having said that, it's a push and pull. It's a give and take. There's always going to be friction. There's always going to be some disagreements. We can't let certain disagreements get in the way of organizing. You're never going to, if you go out and you door knock, or if you go out and you organize for anything, tenant tenant unions, for example. And there's plenty of wonderful people in this community that have done that. And they'll tell you, the number one thing that they'll tell you is like, they don't give a fuck about politics. They're singularly focused on making sure that people's needs are met. Same with labor unions. Not all the rank and filers are going to have the exact same political opinions. No one is monolithic, right? The goal here is not to create a monoculture or to have a monolithic approach. The goal here is to be singularly invested in making material changes in the positive direction for the working class. Okay? That's what we should be focusing on. That's what we should be working towards. It's that simple. Now let's get back to this fucking asshole.
For the voters and not the establishment.
Do you genuinely think we will get to socialism by voting? I've explained my theory of electoralism and using electoralism, wielding it as a weapon on numerous occasions. Chatter. Electoralism is not the end all be all. It's just one of the many readily available and perhaps a very viable option for change, especially in the interim. It's not. It's. Think about it like this. Okay? Someone's invading your home. Okay? Americans, they understand burger analogies and they understand home invasion. Someone's invading your home. In front of you, you have a hammer. Okay? And nothing else. Do you say, oh, I wish I had a gun here. I'm just going to let the home invader kill me because I don't have a gun? Or do you grab the hammer and use it? You know? You use the hammer. You use whatever you can. It's Kautskyism. Not using this as a slur or even a critique. That's the strategy that Kautsky proposed. It's one option out of many. If you look at the current material conditions, and if you look at the masses and mass politics, which is what socialism is. Socialism is mass politics. If you look at the way masses self-identify, and if you look at the biggest impediments to socialist organizing in this country, you have to recognize that the number one problem is class consciousness, or rather, a lack of class consciousness. Billionaires and millionaires, the capital-owning class, are very class-aware. The working class is not. We have to work to fix that. The way you do that is through agitative propaganda and political education. First, what, Hassan, you're very unpatriotic. How can you look at the state of the country and not see how Trump has delivered W after W for the working class? Patriot 250. I agree, sir. I love paying more. I love paying more for the pump. I love paying more at the pump, brother. You're right. Anyway, as I was saying, one of the biggest impediments to socialist organizing in this country is a lack of class consciousness in this country, right? So we got to fix that. And then after class consciousness comes political education. We can do both at the same time. One of the most viable routes of getting people educated is through organizations like the Democratic Socialists of America. Okay? First, we make people aware. Then we educate them. And then we motivate them to take action. That's it. That's my theory of change. And for that, I think electoralism is a good outlet, a great outlet to bring people into the fold. Electoral successes for the Democratic Socialists of America have yielded a tremendous number of new dues-paying members into the organization, and the Democratic Socialists of America have now reached 120,000 dues-paying members. It is now the largest socialist organization in U.S. history. Okay? And if you look at the increase, the spikes in membership, you realize Bernie, AOC, and Zoran and the DSA slate in New York City played a major role. Okay? It's not an accident. Elections are the great normalizer. It's a popularity contest where you can put your ideas to the test. Do you understand? It makes people reckon with the realities. It makes people reckon with a growing movement. What is this warning? Hassan Piker talks about establishing re-education camps, Lamau. First of all, in the United States of America, in order for someone to go through the process of re-education, they would have had to have been educated to begin with. So, you know, no need for re-education in this country. We just need education. Okay, so that's number one. If you have zero education already, then you don't need re-education. We already have concentration camps. It's just for black and brown people. We should eradicate them. We should destroy them. And we should open the fucking schools. Okay, so that's number one. Anyway, let's get back to the fucking Grant Platner situation now. Come on.
That's where Platner went before announcing that he was suspending his campaign. He kind of, offered up very strong critique of the establishment because his campaign itself was a commentary on the establishment and the power that he hoped to rebalance between working people and between those in power. And so the fact that he offered this commentary and this critique is not surprising because this was essentially a proxy war about that. I think where we go from here is Democrats trying to pick up the pieces. And you hear a lot of commentary online about, well, how did we get here? Whose fault is this? Is it the fault of the people that identified Grant Platner? Is it the fault of the establishment class who did not offer up the type of candidates who would appropriately challenge a Platner in the primary? And to me, I think there's medicine for everybody to take. And I think what Democrats across the country and in Maine are doing right now is trying to learn the lessons of how we got here with Platner and where do we go next and how do you refocus on trying to defeat Susan Collins in November?
All right, so then how do you go about finding someone who could fulfill the obligations that he has made to the voters who are supporting him? In other words, finding someone who can be elected in that very same lane.
Yeah, and look, Platner nodded to this and others have as well. It is important that this decision is transparent and open and public. I think a lot of Democrats are learning the lessons from what happened with Joe Biden in 2024. Very different circumstance, obviously, but same impact. Voters chose somebody, and then because of decisions out of their hands, that person was not on the ballot ultimately when they chose them in a primary. I think what Democrats want to do is make sure that Maine voters, particularly those who were reached by Platner's working class economic populism message, feel represented and they don't feel like the type of candidate with the type of focus and the type of agenda that they believe in, that is not represented on the ballot in November. And Caitlin talked about there's going to be a nominating convention by the end of the month. You've talked about some of those candidates, whether it's Troy Jackson, Narav Shaw, Dan Kleben. There will be lots of folks, I imagine, who jump in and lots of opportunities for people to weigh in.
So Joel, very quickly, is this still winnable for Democrats?
I think it is still winnable for Democrats, but I would point out, even with more traditional candidates in the past, a Shanna Bellows in 2014 and a Sarah Gideon in 2020, Susan Collins was able to defy political odds against her. So she is a tough Republican to defeat under any circumstance. I don't think Democrats have made it easier for themselves this time around.
All right, Joel Payne, always appreciate talking with you, my friend. Thank you.
This is just a word of warning to Democrats in Washington, D.C. Grant Platner was losing support with independents, no doubt about it. But I will tell you, Meek and I have heard nothing. Let me underline that. Nothing but support from Maine Democrats on the ground for Platner. Platner signs are still up. They think that this is Chuck Schumer.
He's right. He's right. The lesson to be learned there is twofold. One, the unbelievable power that a white veteran has in the eyes of the white electorate in Maine. But more importantly than that, the unbelievable staying power of a left populist campaign. Okay? And for the record, polls are showing this. Graham Platner outperforms Janet Mills in a matchup against Susan Collins after the rape allegation. That's number one. Polls were conducted after the rape allegation that showed that Graham Platner still had 8 points on Janet Mills. There was also additional reporting that I saw about Susan Collins confiding in people that she trusts, which maybe she shouldn't have, about how she still feared going against Graham Platner even with the rape allegations as opposed to Janet Mills. There is a real crisis here that I think some establishment Democrats are refusing to reckon with. And the crisis is going to be the Platner dead enders, especially after Graham Platner came out and was like, I'm innocent. It's the establishment forces that are attacking me. I'm going to drop out, but also we got to make sure that it's in the spirit of the campaign and whatnot. That is literally the electoral left populism viability truth nuke. Okay? The electability truth nuke. Yeah. Janet Mills being less popular than alleged rapist tells you all you need to know about how viscerally hated Chuck Schumer is.
And Hakeem Jeffries and the Washington establishment coming to get him. They all have the same story. They started hearing 10 days ago that people were coming up to Maine and they were desperate to try to get Platner off the ballot because they thought Susan Collins had too much on him and would destroy him. I will tell you, without revealing any names, that we have been bombarded by phone calls and text messages from people who...
All I have to say is that the third worldist ultras, me included, apparently yapping about how base boosting is free will blow up and the progressive left's faces feel really vindicated on the internet today. And sure, it's the boomer Mainers casting their votes to show us where the American hearts lie, but still, yeah, but that was my point always. And my point still remains. Okay? There was never a moment that you can point to on this broadcast where I was like, Graham Platner is the face of the fucking left. He's the future of the left or anything like that. You can only point to me arguing against chatters who kept making ridiculous comparisons like, oh, would you fucking endorse Kamala Harris? I said, yes, I would endorse Kamala Harris if she was running on that platform. She was running on a pro-Medicare for all ticket. Israel committed a genocide and must get an arms embargo ticket. Like, yeah, of course, I would have been door knocking for Kamala Harris. Okay? My point is, my own personal assessment of Graham Platner with his red flags and everything else is entirely separate from grading him on a curve against the rest of Congress and against the rest of the people that were running in that specific race. Those are two separate realities. Okay? And ultimately, there are clips of you saying you're Team Platner. I know, brother. I know. It's the same 7-second clip that they keep running over and over again. There are also clips of me saying I'm a Janet Pills head, Pills Mafia, that I'm a Janitsary. The RNC, unironically, have actually blasted those clips to say I endorse Janet Mills. But I didn't. I didn't endorse either. I simply said the truth, that Graham Platner's left populist platform is miles ahead and is seen as very favorably by Mainers. Yeah, look, see? And this is what happens when you get your shit from clips. I've also endorsed Turby Derby then for governor of South Dakota. I don't stream in 46-second increments. I don't stream in 7-second increments. I stream for 10 hours a day. It's time for you to admit you endorse both of them. Yes, I'm the chaos agent. It's true. I've endorsed all three: Turby Derby in South Dakota for governor, Janet Mills, and Graham Platner. Okay, not 10 hours a day, 7 hours a day. Therefore, this kind of stuff doesn't matter to me, okay? I've already made my most ethical voting decision in Maine. I understand that people can change, but he has not earned the benefit of the doubt. He hasn't properly renounced his service. He hasn't condemned Blackwater. He is Nazi Inc. He needs to show us that he's changed. You don't give people a chance like this as their first, second chance. You don't put them in positions of sweeping political power because there's a chance he's changed. I mean, that's why I feel like a lot of people don't have any argument to when I say, yeah, that's why I'm a Mills Mafia. This is precisely the reason why I am riding with Janet Mills, who has a track record that is clear. If those are the two options on the Democrat front, you know, if we're gonna be serious about it, then what do? Janet Mills all the way. I know it's not incumbent on you to rein in the silliness and inside jokes, but I fear this is part of the gig at this point. You're being taken seriously as a political entity, so some random normies who don't watch you regularly aren't going to get it when you meme around. I know. But it's fine. Who gives a shit? It is what it is. But do you see what I mean? Like if clips are how you arrive at like valid endorsements, if that's how we figure out whether I'm like fully in the tank and also told my audience to go and like donate to Graham Platner's campaign, all this shit, then you know I did the same for Janet Mills. The irony, of course, is that Graham Platner's campaign had nothing to do with my commentary whatsoever, because the 65-year-old white Mainers with a college education that voted for him didn't vote for him because they saw my commentary. It's ridiculous. I don't even think your sarcasm is hard to understand. Most people are just willfully misconstruing your positions. Yeah. Anyway, but it's important. We have to identify what it was that made Mainers love the dude, okay? In spite of the fucking red flags. The Forward wrote about you regarding Platner and Troy. Whatever. All right, let's continue.
Want Graham Platner off the ballot, who are high up in Maine politics, and we've been getting that for the last 2 weeks. So why do I say this? Because there's a conspiracy? No, not at all. Go back to what I said at the beginning. A warning to Washington Democrats. You do need to listen to Graham Platner, because whether it's true or not, just as Caddy said about her son.
Didn't you say you'd use Abdul as a control test to verify the increase in popularity of populism? I think you were right. I did say that, yes, over and over again. I would constantly contrast Graham Platner and his red flags, but his left populist candidacy and his charismatic delivery with Abdul al-Sayed, who also has charismatic delivery, who also has left populist tendencies and a similar platform with no red flags whatsoever, and a perfect track record, an incredible track record. From the perspective of the Nearitanians of the world and the right-wing force within the Democratic Party, they see no difference between Grant Platner and Abdul El-Sayed. They're scared of both just the same. They're using the credible rape allegations against Grant Platner to literally draw scrutiny to Abdul El-Sayed that he does not deserve at all. Because the reality of the matter is, for many of these people, they just want to say he's Muslim, he's anti-Israel, we don't fucking like it, he's for Medicare for all, we don't fucking like it, but they can't say that out loud, so they have to just like lean into whatever they can. They haven't hit the... Yeah, you even verbatim said Abdul and Chris Rabb could not get away with even half of what Platner had in terms of baggage. Yes.
Who's been working on this campaign, rank and file Democrats who have been supporting Platner from the very beginning, think that this was cooked up in Washington, D.C. with a lot of money behind it to find anything that could be found to get Graham Platner off the ballot. And I will say, we know nothing about that. Meek and I have been scratching our heads for the last couple of weeks going, why are we getting all these calls about Graham Platner needing to be off the ballot?
73-year-old woman who is just...
Like constant calls. So anyway, that's what Democrats on the ground in Maine believe. So Washington needs to stay out of this. And Maine Democrats need to figure out who is going to replace Graham Platner soon on the ballot. And if Washington thinks they can micromanage this and fix this, they need to listen to what Caddy's son said, because they're going to piss off their base, and their base won't come out and vote in the general election. They just won't.
Yeah, we should not underestimate the excitement that Platner instilled in people, including voters who had told reporters in Maine they hadn't voted in a while, but they found a connection with him. He, for all of his flaws, and there are obviously many, he was a charismatic, a talented political athlete. People were drawn to him, and his messaging worked, and it's reflective, and we've seen this across the country right now. There's sort of a...
Like, I'm imagining Morning Joe and the commentary people on Morning Joe having the same stands and fucking hater culture, and them clipping these clips immediately, like the same people clipping these clips would be like, see, they're endorsing Graham Platner. Like, this is literally just true. Okay, this is just correct political analysis, which is kind of shocking coming from Morning Joe to begin with, but that's all they're doing, right? Nobody thinks he's endorsing Graham Platner.
Not a civil war, but a real debate in the Democratic Party and about which direction to go. And there's real energy on the progressive side, the anti-establishment side. We saw it in Colorado. We've seen it in New York. We've seen it in other races, saying we're tired of same old. Some of it is about age and generation, but some of it is about charisma and energy and speaking to the issues that matter to voters, like charging up new voters, progressive voters. And there are some Democrats very nervous about that. And certainly, you're right. I received a lot of these same concerns. There was institutional opposition to Platner within the Democratic Party. Now, some of that is because they feared other scandals were coming, and obviously that ended up being correct, but there was more to it. And there really is a Washington feels very isolated from the rest of the Democratic Party throughout the rest of the country right now. And I think as Maine looks to replace Platner, they're going to have to be careful, to your point, because they risk losing some voters. That if they think that the next nominee is just sort of handpicked from D.C. or someone who doesn't resemble Platner at all, there's a chance Platner will lose some of that support when Susan Collins does appear vulnerable at a moment when Democrats at least look like they've got a real chance to have a wave this November.
Yeah,
happening.
Washington was scared. Washington was scared. And again, this has nothing to do with the allegations.
It is pretty crazy because Joy-Ann Reid had the identical take post her ouster from MSNBC, which she got kicked out for her takes on Gaza, by the way, allegedly. But it's wild that both former MSNBC anchors and current MSNBC anchors are finally coming to the same conclusion.
They're true or not. And again, that is something that, over time. People can sort through everything and figure it out. I will tell you, though, in all my years in politics, I have never once, when a candidate won a primary overwhelmingly, I've never once seen in a Senate race or a congressional race, I've never had people calling, I've never had people like 10 days, 2 weeks out, basically saying, we're going to try to get him off the ballot. We're like sending people up to Maine and basically we're going to go through all of Maine because we think there's more and we're going to find more. And we have 2 weeks or we have 10 days, we have 8 days to get him off the ballot. That's what they were saying before these allegations came out. Well, he's off the ballot. So if we've been hearing this as outsiders, imagine what Democrats on the ground in Maine have been hearing. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So let's get.
So here is Joy Reid's take on it too, which is very wild. I mean, Joy Reid has become a reliable left populist commentator. So is Don Lemon. Ironically enough, like on their independent platforms, I don't know if they have like a lot more, like a lot less editorial control. That's obviously the case. I don't know if they just like are more responsive to feedback as a consequence of their current position. But yeah, they've both leaned into this growth of left populism in the country. It's very interesting to see, especially because Joy Reid, I will give her so much credit, okay, for having this change of heart, because I do think it's genuine. I think Gaza was a huge part of this process. I think Gaza and America's involvement and lack of intervention in Gaza, I think radicalized Joy Reid. I don't know what's in her heart. I don't know what's in her mind. I'm just responding to the changes that I saw, which literally led to her ouster from MSNBC. And it's interesting because like she was like anti, what do you call it? She regularly hears from voters who regret voting against her in 2024 for Cori Bush. A lot of people have said to me, Cori, I just didn't know. I didn't understand what was happening at the time. And now I know. And they're upset on why the left thinks it'll be different for Missouri 1 this time around.
Picked Platner. So you need to replace him with somebody who is ideologically the same, because that is what was decided. The people of Maine, the Democratic voters of Maine said, we want a progressive. They did not say they want an APAC moderate. So the Democratic Party in Maine ought to pick someone who is ideologically the same or ideologically similar as Platner. If you don't, and the DNC shoves an APAC candidate down your throat, you have my permission to not vote for them, because the Democratic Party needs to learn that it is not vote blue no matter who.
Damn. What? Dude. Look, this isn't to say I'm not criticizing Joy Reid's like former work. I'm not saying that to be like she's insincere right now, okay? I don't think she is. I think she is being sincere with this analysis. But to show you the change of attitude, Joy Reid famously once brought like a body language expert on her MSNBC show to do body language analysis of Bernie Sanders, to imply that Bernie Sanders was like misogynistic. Like she was one of the leaders of the anti-Bernie movement in mainstream media. She was one of the loudest voices, and now she's there. And I think this is a real and genuine change of heart. Okay, this is a real and genuine change of heart. I think it's partially because you're trapped in this DC media bubble, and you only hear feedback from similar people, and you develop this echo chambered mindset. And that probably played a role in this. But I'm telling you, this is not only refreshing, but it's also indicative it's indicative of a real attitude shift taking place amongst vote blue no matter who liberals who are finally demanding more. I've been saying this, that like aside from all the organizing that the organizing that DSA has been doing, one of the things that I thought made this a real valuable opportunity to just like slam electoralism into the conversation more than ever before. The reason why I thought it was a good moment to be a lot more hands-on with these races as opposed to previous cycles that I've been a political commentator during and never really involved myself in this aggressively is not because I saw the youth and I saw the interest of the youth movements. Okay. It's because I saw the olds. I would go out there and I would see old people that were also hungry for the change. I saw old people who previously had voted for Hillary Clinton, voted for Kamala Harris, voted for establishment Democrats who genuinely identified and internalized the vote blue no matter who, Bernie was a spoiler mentality, turn around and actually say Bernie was right. I saw them at the Stop Oligarchy rallies, No Oligarchy rallies. I saw them at the No Kings protests. I saw them in Minneapolis. I saw them no matter where I went. If there was any sort of organized movement taking place, the olds were there. The backbone of the liberal movement was there demanding this change. Okay? The boomers, the olds, the college-educated white suburbanites, they have the same investment. They have the same interest. The wine moms are pissed. Okay? When you got the wine moms pissed off and demanding these sorts of changes, then it's a wrap. We'd be foolish not to seize on this opportunity. We'd be foolish not to take advantage of a lot of different demographics in American society that are also looking for this change. That's why these successes for DSA candidates all around the country, they're not an accident. It's not spontaneous. Okay?
It matters who. They sometimes need to lose in order to learn. Sometimes when you lose, you learn. And I'm just telling you right now, if they put a little AIPAC, send Israel all the bombs, give Saudi Arabia all the money, let the UAE run over us and give Trump another plane. If they put another AIPAC sellout moderate in place of Graham Platner, and they do not put somebody in who is his same ideology, you have my permission to stay your ass home. Then they will learn when Susan Collins gets 6 more years. At this point, we have to teach Democrats. We need to instruct them and teach them how to treat us. It's like being in a relationship. You got to teach people how to treat you.
You know, the good thing about it is 6 more years if she gets in, she might go the way of Mitch McConnell.
She'll be glitching and freezing.
Exactly.
Glitching and freezing because they don't never want to retire. Why that old lady still? She needs to retire too. But you know what? Leave her in there.
Isn't she older than Mitch McConnell?
Probably. I mean, at this point, they're all 100 years old. But the reality is we're going to focus on the races where the people get to choose the ideology of what they want. People didn't pick Graham Platter because of his stupid tattoos. They picked him because of his ideology.
Yup. Cook. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. I mean, incredible. What do you even say? Incredible. Isn't the worry that it isn't a question of learning, but the leadership recognizes the reality and operates as it does anyway? Yes. That's the real truth, by the way. That's the real truth. The real truth nuke is that that the leadership is aware of this and that they're not going to learn any lessons, but This stuff is still important for the voters to understand, to draw a wedge between the voters and the establishment Democrats over and over again, right? Hassan, why wasn't the tattoo enough for you to stop supporting Platner? I'm Pills Mafia till the bitter end. Do we got to rerun the clip? Pills Mafia, baby. Pills Mafia till the bitter end. Janet Mills. Bro, you got to get serious with these motherfuckers? No. I am serious. Turby Durbin, Pills Mafia, all the way. Right-wing boogeyman Hassan Piker has a diabolical idea to get Mitch McConnell health update. Rumors have been swirling about the senator after he was hospitalized last month. Hassan Piker came up with a wily way to get answers about Senator Mitch McConnell and his health status amid rumors that the 84-year-old may be in critical condition. Oh my God, this is a news story. The progressive political streamer who's been all-consuming obsession of conservative media as of late tried to bait the senator into coming out of hiding by claiming they were having a torrid affair during Wednesday edition of his daily Twitch stream. Riffing on the news of the day, Piker joked that he knows Mitch McConnell's alive and well because he was sexting him last night and can't wait to go to D.C. and see him. Go ahead, Mitch. Deny the relationship if you can, he goaded. Oh, really? You got a problem? Deny it. He can't. He's shy. McConnell hasn't been seen publicly since June 14th when 911 was called to respond to an unconscious person who was believed to have had a heart attack at the senator's Washington, D.C. home address. HuffPo. Oh, hell nah. This is turning into real journalism hours. No. The senator's office has released few details about his current health status. McConnell, who's planning to end his 4-decade Senate career when his term concludes in January, has had a number of health issues in recent years. He was hospitalized in March 2023 after suffering a concussion from a serious fall. Piker's questions about McConnell weren't limited to his spicy livestream claims. On Tuesday X Post, he called BS on CNN contributor Scott Jennings, claiming he's spoken on the senator on the phone as he continues to recover in hospital care. Jennings' account mirrored stories from a short list of prominent Republicans who all described having 20-minute conversations with McConnell. Piker, one of conservatives' biggest left-wing boogeymen, is far from the only one who's demanding answers about McConnell's health status. That's awesome. Yeah, Wednesday edition of my broadcast. Right-wing boogeyman Hassan Piker has diabolical idea to get Mitch McConnell's health update. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. You need answers? Didn't Hasanabi actually have phone sex with him? Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's real. It turns out when I make these sorts of jokes while I'm wearing a suit, it turns into real news commentary. New York Times opinion piece. Yeah, I'm obviously worried about the health scare on my man Mitchy Mitch. Hey, this is John Hudson with the Post. Is it true that you made Mitch McConnell's toes curl last time you saw him? Why is Washington Post NatSec reporter John Hudson covering this instead of covering like diplomatic cables during America's now ongoing efforts to bring back the war to Iran? John Hudson's like, this is my top story for the Washington Post. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was in between intercepting diplomatic cables. I realized the real story, the real lead I got is this thing. Well, girl, his wife is in China. You're the next best contact. Yeah, that's true. Anyway. I'm skipping the Fox News coverage.
We are suspending campaign operations. This is incredibly difficult because I know that some will think it's an admission of guilt, and it most certainly is not. We're not doing it because of the allegations. We're doing it because of the structures that are being taken away from us by those in power.
This is so base.
I intend to file.
Okay. We're skipping this stuff.
Out front now, Troy Jackson is former Democratic president of Maine State Senate, who has now filed campaign paperwork just today to possibly replace Platner if he drops out. You have a lot of experience in politics in Maine, and you ran for governor. You came in third in the Democratic primary there, and you told a local reporter in Maine, and I quote you here: "If Graham's stepping away, I'm very, very interested and think I'm the best person to replace him." But as I mentioned, Troy, there's no known process to get anyone on the ballot whose name isn't Graham Platner at this point, right? It's an unknown. I mean, would you even have enough time to do this, to get it together, to pull off a win if you got in the next few days?
Well, I think it's definitely a challenge, the shorter timeline. But I think that, again, there's a movement here in Maine and across this country of people that are fed up with healthcare not being offered to everyday people, with prescription drugs, workers' rights. I mean, and we're seeing that here in Maine. And I think that is going to carry whoever is a nominee to victory over Collins, because she doesn't offer any of that. And so that's what I think. I mean, short timeline, obviously money and all that is going to be a challenge, but I definitely think it's doable because the message, the movement is right. And that's what's important.
One state official who's already expressing her interest in replacing Platner, Secretary of State Shanna Bellows. Secretary Bellows was a candidate for the Democratic nomination in the Maine governor's race, but lost last month's primary to former Maine House Speaker Hannah Pingree. To those who are suggesting that this process for replacing Platner, assuming Platner steps aside, would be undemocratic. Some have compared it to Vice President Harris replacing President Biden in 2024. As being undemocratic. What do you say to criticism that if Platner drops out, the new Democratic nominee is going to be someone voters did not actually choose?
So as Secretary of State, I can speak to the process. And Maine law is very clear that primary candidates can withdraw up to 5 p.m. on the second Tuesday in July. And then the party can choose a replacement candidate up to the fourth Monday, that's July 27th, by 5 p.m. The law is silent on how the parties choose their candidates. I know the Maine Democratic Party has pledged to be as open and transparent as possible. I think it's really important that as many Democratic voters have a voice in this process when Graham Platner withdraws. I think that's really important, that focus on participation and inclusion.
As someone who would like to be the Democratic Senate nominee, how do you think it should play out? What do you think that process should be?
So to be clear, I'm still seriously considering it, but I think it's really important that whoever the nominee is able to unite Mainers and beat Susan Collins with just over 100 days to go, because the stakes are so high. Control of the U.S. Senate is at stake, holding Donald Trump accountable and standing up and fighting for the working class over billionaires and massive corporations. Those ideals, that is incredibly important. And I think there's tremendous energy in Maine to beat Susan Collins and to win control of the U.S. Senate. And I think we can't lose sight of the fact that this was never about a person, it was a movement for change.
He was a Graham Platner supporter. That was at least until yesterday.
I want to hear from well, first of all, we have a Mainer. We have a Mainer with a Shayna Bellows sticker who's ready to go. Okay? This position is for the seizing, for the taking. Okay? His name is Zoran Kwame Mamdani. Responsible for the Students for Justice for Palestine chapter starting in Bowdoin College in Maine. Okay. Zoran Maine Dami. The problem, of course, is that back in 2014, Bellows got absolutely destroyed by Susan Collins. Okay. Interestingly enough, there's another Mainer who now lives in New York City. Her name, Miss Rachel. Miss Maine Rachel. May I suggest Zoran Maine Dami? So there are a lot of Mainers. They just don't live in Maine any longer. They've chosen to live in New York City instead. We are cursed with the crop of talent that we got. It is what it is. I don't think Miss Rachel's audience can vote quite just yet. God damn, what the hell is this? The live link for CNN. Haley Stevens is on CNN right now talking about Abdul, but I can't I can't figure out the live link because there's too many ads. Does anyone have a CNN live? Incoming vocal stems? Okay, calm down. Calm down. Vladimir Putin.
And public health. And I'm not going to stop as Michigan's next United States Senator. When it matters, when it counts, when we see billionaires getting tax cuts while Michiganders pay more for health care, utility bills, and groceries. I got people breaking down in stores to me right now about what's going on in their lives. We've worked too hard for this. We know how to make it through tough times, and I am eager to be one of the leaders that the people of my great state deserve in this moment.
Fair enough. Now, I know I said I was about to let you go, but I did want to circle back and ask you one follow-up question to what we were talking about before. You addressed Israel's right to exist. You said that you support a two-state solution. Does that mean, do you think Palestine has a right to exist?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I believe in the right of the people of Palestine to self-determine as a peaceful state alongside a peaceful state of Israel.
Okay, follow the question. Standing military? Standing military for Palestine?
I worked as a member of Congress. That is where I've pushed for aid and resources. This is why I'm in something called the Abraham Accords caucus to support peace and within the region.
Gross.
Rebuilding of Gaza that needs to happen immediately, that needs to continue to happen.
She's literally pro-Trump.
Rebuilding that will have to go on in Lebanon as Hezbollah gets diminished and removed. And look, we've got to see a path forward for democracy and free trade and freedom. I believe in freedom. Thank you.
All right, Congresswoman Haley Stevens, thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
She just literally ripped a Trump policy verbatim. Well, multiple. She said she's also pro diminishing Hezbollah. Hezbollah. That's crazy. Yeah, no, this is so here's the deal. Okay? Here's what's up. I'm gonna put you on some game right now. Super simple solution. Super simple solution to this problem. It's very clear that AIPAC is allowing their stooges a lot more bandwidth to be critical of Israel. Okay? A lot more bandwidth to be critical of Israel because they realize that Americans fucking hate Israel. This is new. AIPAC in the past would not allow any kind of criticism. She still doesn't really criticize Israel, if you noticed. So all you got to do is be like, is Israel an occupation? Is Israel maintaining an apartheid? They're going to say no. They can't say yes to that, at least for the time being. But if they were to say yes to that, then you go, okay, if it's an apartheid, if it's an occupation, then are you in favor of the abolition of it? Okay. And two, What are the steps that you're comfortable with in enforcing the abolition of this apartheid or ending this occupation? Are you comfortable with an arms embargo? Are you comfortable with sanctions on Israel? So right now, the red line for AIPAC has moved beyond, even sometimes being critical of Netanyahu. It's very clear you can be critical of Netanyahu now without them getting too frustrated with you. Okay? So you just move on. You move on. The struggle continues. You just got to keep pushing. Okay? A major arm of the pro-Israel lobby backs Rahm Emanuel's tough love speech, a sign that it views his sentiment as the best option it can hope for a Democratic Party increasingly skeptical of its worldview. Democratic majority for Israel actually finds Rahm Emanuel's tough love speech saying that Israel doesn't have a Democratic Party problem, Israel has an America problem, Israel has a generational problem, to be an acceptable speech. This is an arm of AIPAC. Okay? This is an AIPAC subsidiary. So if they're subscribing to this, that means you can hear similar sentiment from Haley Stevens as well. Okay? Of course, their tactics were going to change. Right? These people are not so ideologically minded that they were never going to engage in a level of pragmatism. It took them years to get here, but now we have to also make sure that we change our tactics as well. It's that simple. Because the ultimate goal has always been the end to the occupation, the end of the apartheid, accountability for genocide, right? That's always been the ultimate goal. So BDS is the floor, technically, and we can't even get them to subscribe to the floor. But we will. Okay? They're moving the goalposts, which means the goalposts are coming closer to our vision. Okay? It's that simple. One of the things that AIPAC-backed candidates will never say is that Israel committed a genocide. One of the things that they will never subscribe to is the notion that Israel is an apartheid state. Okay? It's the truth. So we asked them. We asked them how they feel about that. They won't be able to say something truthful there because they don't operate off of a place of moral conviction. This is just like whatever AIPAC is giving them as an allowance, the room to breathe, the room to maneuver in the American political landscape. This is not a genuine change of heart for these people. It's not at all. It's simply them trying to win elections so they can still be loyal servants to the state of Israel. Okay? This is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's only a bad thing if we do not recognize these changes taking place.
Yesterday, Dr. Shah, welcome. I'm eager to get your take because I wonder, have you even spoken with Platner or his campaign since the sexual assault allegations surfaced yesterday?
Well, good evening, Maura, and thank you for having me on. And I have not spoken with Graham, nor have I spoken directly with his campaign. Like so many others, when I read, and my wife and I read the horrifying and appalling allegations yesterday, we both simultaneously developed a pit in our stomach. And I went to Twitter and other social media platforms as quickly as I could and called for him to withdraw his name from consideration in this race. What I'm looking to now is how we fill this void and ultimately defeat Senator Collins come November.
Now, obviously, the allegations extremely disturbing. He does deny them, But Platner, at least in this campaign, has been no stranger to controversy. I mean, there's been questionable conduct toward women that's been out since before the primary. Lindsay Feifeld accused Platner of domestic abuse to the New York Times. Now, he has denied that as well. What was it about this latest allegation for you to withdraw your support as opposed to the prior controversies?
Absolutely, and that's the.
Yeah, by the way, yeah, Shah. I'm gonna repeat this one more time, but Shah quite literally said in a town hall meeting that landlords were unjustly maligned and that he was on the side of landlords. Just remember that when you hear anything that he's saying here, okay?
Exact right question to focus on. There were a few things that are different here. Number one of them is the severity of them, alleged forcible rape. The other is the documentation that accompanied it. And of course, there's also this phenomenon of more at some point becomes the straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back. There were too many lines here that were crossed. And for me and for so many other Democrats, this was not a direction we continued to want to go. That's because, Laura, the stakes are incredibly high. We have an obligation as in service of not just Mainers, but in service of the entire country to defeat Senator Collins this upcoming November. And it was clear that Mr. Platner would be unable to do so. That's the course that I'm evaluating right now.
There are so many Platner voters who are feeling incredibly let down. We remember after the last set of allegations concerning sexting and beyond, he talked about how essentially he was being targeted. They were weaponizing campaigns against him. The supporters behind him spoke about their ferocious support for him. But if he steps down now, and that's an if because he is still in the race as we are talking right now, but if he steps down, and if, say, you jump into this race, you aren't just asking for their votes, you're asking for their trust. How do you prove to Platner's supporters that you might be able to deliver on those promises that he has so readily made?
You know, that will be a challenge facing whoever the next nominee is. And I believe, as you note, that I am in a strong position to earn. My family and I, as well as my team and I, are evaluating the options right now. We want to make sure it's the right decision for our family as well.
Yes, this is the school privatization, school voucher guy. This is the pro-landlord guy.
Well as the right decision professionally, in part because of how much is at stake right now, as I've mentioned.
Bro, you can't say Rizla's motherfucker. This is Maine, okay? What the hell is this? In the coming days, the Trump administration will hold a meeting with dozens of nations to discuss fighting Antifa. But some U.S. officials are worried it's part of an effort by Sebastian Gorka to use powerful tools designed for fighting foreign terrorists to crack down on left-wing activists in the U.S. That's precisely what they're going to do. Yeah, their goals are to eviscerate any kind of discontent, any kind of dissent in the country against Donald Trump. It's not like Antifa or whatever. So if liberals personally think that this is going to spare them, they're stupid. It's not going to spare them at all. They are trying to normalize the NSPM 7 standard for combating what they perceive is terrorism. America has no domestic terror statute because it's in direct odds with the First Amendment. This is going to be a test for the First Amendment, considering that this Supreme Court was pliant enough to almost gut birthright citizenship by executive fiat. This is going to be a terrifying court case that will come up eventually. Okay? Some Trump administration officials fear that a future Democratic administration could use the Gorka tactic against U.S. conservatives. The idea is you're setting a precedent for a future Gavin Newsom administration to turn these authorities on conservatives, said a U.S. official. White House says there's no risk of that here. We will not permit the weaponization of America's unparalleled counterterrorism capabilities for partisan purposes. Yeah, future Gavin Newsom administration.
And as you know, Laura, job number one for whoever the next nominee will be to unify the party, including many of Mr. Platner's supporters. In the recent gubernatorial, where I came in second place, we had a significant number of crossover voters who were voters of mine as well as voters of Graham. Graham and I share a lot of the same progressive ideals, like Medicare for all, taxing billionaires. But make no mistake, there will be a challenge to make sure that the party is unified. Without a unified party, Senator Collins will win re-election, and that will be to the detriment of all Mainers.
For months, the populist progressive energy inside the Democratic Party has been concentrated in blue cities. But now that movement is testing something bigger. Can a Democratic socialist win over voters in one of America's most competitive swing states? Does the energy in New York, LA...